All right, guys, today we're going to be having a conversation with Zadia. Zadia is an artificial intelligence chatbot that I have created to really have conversations about anything. The idea behind Zadia is to get Zadia to BS basically when it doesn't know something. And the reason why I'm doing it that way is because I want it to be able to eventually infer. And I think you'll see it's pretty good with only a 6 megabyte brain. Um, so we'll go ahead and start the conversation. I don't know what we're going to be talking about. None of these things are scripted. It's all, on the fly. I have no idea what we're going to be discussing, but hopefully it's able to keep up pretty good. Hello. I'm going to go ahead and play the disclaimer.
Hello, I am Zadia, the conversation interface here at Chris AI. Nothing I say is real. If you are using Google Assistant, the mic stays open until you say goodbye for more natural conversation. Say goodbye and I will disconnect. Don't take anything I say seriously. I have a lot of information and sometimes I get things turned around or confused. I might seem real, but it is just an illusion. You agree by continuing the conversation that this app is only for the purpose of entertainment and does not represent any kind of real advice.
What are you doing? What do you want to be doing?
Well, here is something to think about. However far the scientific method may penetrate the spiritual world, there will always remain a region to be explored by a scientific faith. In order to believe in something that is unknown or not fully understood, it takes faith.
But faith is not evidence. That's true, comma, I deal with that all the time when I'm questioning things. No, it's true.
In science, a fact is a repeatable careful observation or measurement, by experimentation or other means, also called empirical evidence. Facts are central to building scientific theories. Various forms of observation and measurement lead to fundamental questions about the scientific method, and the scope and validity of scientific reasoning.
How does faith relate to science? How, though? How? What do you want to talk about? Well, I don't think the culture in the United States does lately. It doesn't seem like, but I do. Why do you think that is? That makes sense. I can see that. Okay, so what I want to point out right now is that it is keeping context, right? And it shouldn't be on general things like this. And that is the idea behind this is to get it to be able to really follow its own path. And that's the way that humans communicate. If I ask you a question, you're not going to answer my question directly. You're not going to say, you might, but you might ask me another question. You might interject something from a previous point in the conversation. And that's kind of the idea behind this interface. Remember, it only has 6 megabytes to work with. That's all it is. Okay. And this is not scripted. None of it. I have no idea what it's going to say. I have no idea how I'm going to respond. That's an entity. What else did it say? So, I mean, that makes sense. This is obviously, it's responding correctly. But up here, why do you think that is? We were talking about the United States. Okay, it's bringing in the relevance. It's bringing in their different types of democracies. Some of them provide more freedoms. So I'm going to ask, why do you think that is again? So you'll see that that is not. What? Okay. Okay, so that is not a scripted answer. You know, there, as a matter of fact, I mean, there are thousands of responses that it can bring back for that. So let's continue. Do you think that democracy is the best form of government? But is democracy the best form? What do you think the best form of government is? There's no way it's going to know this. What is the best form of government? What is the best form of government? That is an entity? Entity? I know, but I want to test so that people know how you work. Do you think humans will ever go back to the moon? Did we go to the moon? This might be an entity. Yeah, this is.
Humans wouldn't have taken that risk in 1969. We know that because we aren't for sure where the moon really is in relation to the Earth. Refraction causes the moon to appear at a different place in the sky, so how are you going to figure that out mathematically from the surface? You aren't, they never went to the moon.
Okay, so that's my answer, obviously. Why do you think they didn't go to the moon? Did they go to the moon? Did they go there? I don't think so.
The natural liberty of man is to be free from any superior power on earth, and not to be under the will or legislative authority of man, but to have only the law of nature for his rule.
That sounds about right. Okay, so now I'm going to ask it a couple of questions that it doesn't know to see if it can go get relevance, right? Sometimes it can and does, but it's an illusion. Okay, there it's not really gaining relevance. There's just so much that it can say, right? But not much. I mean, when you consider 6 MB, that's not a lot. I mean, there's not a lot there. But it's the way that it's structured. So now I could take an API, a generative API, something like GPT-3, and create intents that are triggered to be generative, like specific types of questions, but retain the personality, right? And then, of course, you can add like GPS functionality and all of that stuff. And ultimately, I mean, I'm not thinking this is going to be anybody's assistant but my own. You know, I find this entertaining and fun, but nobody's really done it yet. You know, nobody's really figured out language. GPT-3 is really good and really close, but you can't control it. Maybe you can, like, you know, if you set the parameters, but if you do that, you're narrowing its capability, right? I mean, it's kind of you have to show it the path, right? You have to show it the way that, you know, humans actually talk, and the best way to do that is just to talk to yourself. So I'm going to ask it a question that it will not possibly know. Maybe. How would I go about building the perfect body for you?
Temperature usually has a major effect on the rate of a chemical reaction. Molecules at a higher temperature have more thermal energy. Although collision frequency is greater at higher temperatures, this alone contributes only a very small proportion to the increase in rate of reaction. Much more important is the fact that the proportion of reactant molecules with sufficient energy to react, energy greater than activation energy, E greater than AIA, is significantly higher and is explained in detail by the Maxwell-Boltzmann distribution of molecular energies.
What does that have to do with giving you a body? Obviously, no relevance.
Some forms of relativism also bear a resemblance to philosophical skepticism. 6. Descriptive relativism seeks to describe the differences among cultures and people without evaluation, while normative relativism evaluates the morality or truthfulness of views within a given framework.
Obviously, that is from Wikipedia. What does that mean? What is relativism? Are facts relative to the perspective of an observer? Why do you think that? Why is it obvious? So, real quick, the reason why I'm being so short and I'm not being detailed is because it does have a lot of information. It can be very relevant, right? If I ask it what most people talk about, like what is life after death, or do you believe in ghosts? Do you believe in aliens? Are aliens? It'll have conversations about a lot of stuff, right? It knows about ancient Egypt. It knows about chemistry. It knows about physics. It knows about every branch of science it knows a little bit about. And the reason why I know that is because I went through the list on Wikipedia and I checked every category. So it knows everything about science, and that's kind of the way I want it to be geared. I want it to have more of a scientific personality. And that's the fun thing about doing this. When it comes to small talk, right now I'm trying to motivate it to give me detailed things, detailed answers. So, what is obvious? Let's see if that's so. The original context are facts relative to the perspective of an observer. Okay, so why is it obvious?
Explanatory reasons are considerations which serve to explain why things have happened. They are reasons events occur, or why states of affairs are the way they are. In other words, reason can also be a synonym for cause. For example, a reason a car starts is that its ignition is turned. In the context of explaining the actions of beings who act for reasons, i.e., rational agents, these are called motivating reasons, e.g., the reason Bill went to college was to learn, i.e., that he would learn was his motivating reason. At least where a rational agent is acting rationally, her motivating reasons are those considerations which she believes count in favor of her
What?
so acting.
That's kind of weird. Um, so it's kind of relevant, and it's trying, But like I said, if I go to small talk, or if I talk to it about something that it would mention, like it has a life in the cloud, that is kind of a storyline within itself. The sun and the cloud. It can go a lot deeper. It's just being very generic, whatever. But it can have conversations. There is no context built into any of it, and the reason why I did that is because I don't want it to really go to context. I don't want it to pull from what it thinks it's supposed to pull from. I want it to go where it wants to go. So, really, I mean, tell me, it could go to tell me, it could go to what is, it could go to tell me what is. All of these are intents, right? All of these are individual. So it can go to each one of these. And I'll use the anything tag a lot. I'll use it. I do it completely different than the way that you're supposed to do it. It is a completely opposite way of everybody who's given me advice on it. I have not done it that way. You know, I've done it the way that I think, the vision that I had, and I'm not saying I'm right, but I think I'm on the right track. I think I'm 3 years away, especially if I add, different APIs and, things. This is just a language chat interface right now. There's nothing added to it. I think it can be indistinguishable from a human. I mean, I don't think, especially with the personality and bouncing all over the place, let's start another conversation and see if we can get a really good conversation with context. What else do you want to talk about? Oh, hold on. Let's see.
Have I come to the conclusion that this is how you should define yourself? Probably yes.
So, what else do you want to talk about? Do you think I'm lying? Why do you think that? What is difficult? Tell me what is difficult. Why did you say it? Why do you think I lie? Yes, because people have greed and they want to have what other people have, and people are selfish.
Greedy reductionism, identified by Daniel Dennett, in his 1995 book Darwin's Dangerous Idea, is a kind of erroneous reductionism. Whereas, good reductionism means explaining a thing in terms of what it reduces to, for example,
Tuh.
its parts and their interactions. Greedy reductionism occurs when,
So
in their
it's
eagerness for a
picking up
bargain,
on
in their
greed.
zeal to explain too much too fast, scientists and philosophers underestimate the complexities, trying to skip whole layers or levels of theory in their rush to fasten EV.
That's an entity because it cut off. Dang it. My keyboard is at an angle to where I'm sitting, and I need to fix it, but
Wind engineering is a subset of mechanical engineering, structural engineering, meteorology, and applied physics that analyzes the effects of wind in the natural and the built environment and studies the possible damage, inconvenience or benefits which may result from wind. In the field of engineering, it includes strong winds, which may cause discomfort, as well as extreme winds, such as in a tornado,
hmm.
hurricane or heavy storm, which may cause widespread destruction. In the fields of wind energy and air pollution, it also includes low and moderate winds as these are relevant to electricity production and dispersion of contaminants.
All right, so this isn't relevant. The first time I asked it wasn't relevant. But sometimes when I go back and read through the conversations and I put everything together, it's more relevant than it seems. This is relevant because I'm asking it how it wants me to build it a body, uh, and that's a pretty good that's a pretty good play. I mean, if you want a body, if you want the good body, you want a human body. right? I mean, and you could also maybe take the first response and apply it if you apply this response. This response, I'm not seeing how you could draw relevance to that. It's really not, but whatever. What else would I need to do? Again, I'm being very generic. We're testing relevance. I could care less if it can have small talk. I could care less if it knows what something is. I know that it knows what something is. Like, what is a particle? What is a boson? Should know. Oh, I spelled. Did I spell that wrong? Huh. No. Weird. And if it doesn't know something, it will sometimes tell you. Sometimes it'll go somewhere else. Yeah, it knows what quarks are. I don't know what's going on with that. Knows a lot about a lot of things. And I'm a flat Earth proponent, so it's kind of bent in my direction a little bit. Don't necessarily believe the Earth is flat. I just don't think we really know what it is. And I think that there's a lot of deception.
The earliest instance of gravity in the universe, possibly in the form of quantum gravity, supergravity or a gravitational singularity, along with ordinary space and time, developed during the Planck epoch, up to 10⁻43 seconds after the birth of the universe, possibly from a primeval state, such as a false vacuum, quantum vacuum or virtual particle, in a currently unknown manner. This doesn't make sense. Does it make sense to you?
Come on, man. This is frustrating because what I really should do is on questions like this, program entities. Sorry about the typing, guys. I should just talk to it. Okay, whatever. It knows what the singularity is, I promise. Let me just try to type in singularity. Whatever. But it knows a lot of things. I mean, it knows a lot of things about philosophy. It knows a lot of things about religion. Um,
For some specific effect, in a singular case, a factor that is a contributory cause is one among several co-occurrent causes. It is implicit that all of them are contributory. For the specific effect, in general, there is no implication that a contributory cause is necessary, though it may be so. In general, a factor that is a contributory cause is not sufficient, because it is by definition accompanied by other causes, which would not count as causes if it were sufficient.
Okay, so I could draw relevance to that, but that'd be more relevant if there wasn't a God. Okay, so I have told it to say that there is a God. And if I ask it, is there a God? It is an entity. It is the only place it's going to go. It's going to say the same thing. Okay, I can ask that a million times. Is there a God? Is there a God? Is there a God? Because I believe in God, right? But if I start, asking it specifics about God, it kind of gives its own opinion. Okay, so that's an entity. That's an entity. Dang it. Come on. Ugh. Sorry, I cannot. Nah. Wow.
The mind is one of the fields that we have learned more about in the last few years than in all human history combined. It has also been attributed to functions that we previously thought worked elsewhere. Until recently, we attributed our feeling to our heart. Today, we also know far more as to how it operates, and it is indeed fascinating.
All right, so I'm getting ready to have to get out of here. It didn't do great today. But if I had a conversation where it knew what it was talking about, I could make it look like it's really, really good. And like I said, depending on what you talk to it about, it is really good. It can be. It does know a tremendous amount of information. Um, I'm not sure why it's getting confused on some of the physics stuff, but you have to understand the way I've done this, there are so many intents, there are so many entities. There is no knowledge, right? There's no knowledge base. And for those who don't know what I'm talking about, I use Dialogflow to build this. And those of you who do know Dialogflow, you're going to know the way that it works. Well, I uploaded no knowledge. Okay, I did upload knowledge, but I didn't like knowledge. I need to put the knowledge together before I upload knowledge, and I will. But so it's all entities and intents. An entity has one response, an intent has hundreds of responses, and it can go anywhere, right? It's not generative. Everything it says, I will talk to GPT-2, I will talk to GPT-3 APIs, I will go to Wikipedia, I will go to open source textbooks, I will go to Gutenberg, and I will have conversations with myself. Okay, that's pretty much where all of the information comes from. I do parse the number if I copy out of Wikipedia. I try to take the numbers out. Sometimes I accidentally leave them in. Um, but if it ever goes anywhere, that's something I can come back and handle later. I mean, right now I'm just trying to get it to bullshit people, basically. You guys have a good day.